discover the incredible moment my pregnant daughter faced, humiliation that revealed a hidden struggle within. Lisa's heart fluttered at the thought of becoming a mother. The news of her pregnancy should have felt like a rising tide of joy washing over her. Instead, it only heightened the storm brewing in her chest. At 28, she was a single mother and a hard-working nurse, yet as the weeks passed, the weight of impending responsibility pressed down harder. The familiar ache of unresolved feelings regarding her father overshadowed any excitement she tried to muster. His unexpected reappearance in her life felt like a jagged rock tossed into her serene pond, sending ripples of discomfort. Determined to surround herself with supportive company, Lisa joined a local community support group. The first meeting was cozy, laughter mixed with the fragrant aroma of freshly baked goods wafting from the kitchen. Yet, beneath the surface of the warm smiles and affirmations lay an unintentional current of judgment. As the women shared their parenting plans and hopes, Lisa remained painfully aware of her own lack of stability. How could she, a nurse scraping by on a single income, ever compete with their polished lifestyles? The thought nagged at her like a low hum, growing increasingly unbearable. A few weeks later, amidst discussions of diaper brands and nursery colors, a seemingly innocent comment echoed in the room, puncturing her quiet confidence. "Well, not everyone can afford a fancy stroller." One woman laughed lightly, the jest casually landing in the air like a brick. Laughter erupted while Lisa felt her heart plummet, her cheeks flushed with heat, and she could feel the collective eyes dart in her direction. Humiliation clawed at her throat, contorting her insides. They hadn't meant it cruelly, she knew, but the comment struck her as a painful reminder of her financial struggles. It made her question her worth, those with their perfect lives effortlessly casting shadows over her burgeoning motherhood. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Crushed, Lisa returned home that evening, the laughter ringing in her ears, each note suffocating as she processed the realities of her life. Yet, in the chaos of her scattered belongings, she stumbled upon a hidden selection of her father's writings, crumpled papers loaded with raw emotion, filled with reflections on family, resilience, and the intricacies of love. His words seemed to breathe life into her despair, igniting a flicker of hope that perhaps she could understand him and her tangled past. Caught between wanting to reach out to her father and the fear that he would only let her down again, Lisa felt the weight of the unresolved feelings claw into her confidence. The deeper she read, the more she grappled with the legacy he unwittingly handed her, each sentence demanding confrontation rather than avoidance. Fueled by the courage she found between those lines, she decided to meet him at the diner they used to frequent, where remnants of glory and pain mingled in the air like the aroma of burnt coffee. As she sat across from him, tension coiling tightly, the words she'd rehearsed vanished. The conversation erupted in a whirlwind of emotions, anger at the past, yearning for connection, and the desperate hope that they could find a path forward. Yet, as revelations spilled from her lips, Lisa could feel the air grow heavy with complications and unspoken grief. Walking away that day, her heart knotted, she realized she stood at the intersection between forgiveness and the desire for accountability, her path to healing fraught with uncertainty. Clutching her father's writings tightly, she felt an aching question linger in her mind. Could she truly reconcile this painful past while embracing her new role as a mother, or was she doomed to repeat his mistakes? In the days that followed, Lisa found herself submerged in a mix of uncertainty and resolve. Returning to work as a nurse, she channeled the tumult of her emotions into her patients, the rhythmic ebb and flow of the hospital serving as both a refuge and a reminder of her own vulnerabilities. It was a different world than the one she'd experienced at the support group, one where lives hung in the balance and where expertise overshadowed financial status. Each interaction with her patients offered an unanticipated lesson in resilience, a glimpse into lives more shattered than her own. Yet the echoes of her earlier shame lingered. The image of that joking woman haunted her mind. Was the woman's comment meant to belittle her or merely a careless quip? Lisa clenched her fists whenever she recalled those words, a mix of embarrassment and anger fueling determination within her. Steeled by that resentment, Lisa began recounting her own experiences in casual terms, weaving her story into conversations, allowing herself to be vulnerable, but also embracing the strength that came from facing her struggles. One afternoon, while assisting a young mother in recovery, Lisa noticed her tension. She was anxious about her infant's first checkup, rattling off a litany of worries that mirrored Lisa's own. Instead of merely offering reassuring nods, Lisa shared her fears. "You think being a parent gets easier? Each day feels like a new challenge, but you're not alone in this." The mother's eyes widened, and in an instant, Lisa observed a flicker of understanding wash over her. In that connection, she realized how empowering it felt to be authentic. Over the next few weeks, Lisa transformed that realization into a mission. She began organizing informal meetings with fellow nurses, women she discovered were also balancing motherhood with the demands of their career. They shared their invaluable skills, from time management to emotional resilience, creating an informal support system grounded in hard-earned experience rather than superficial comparisons. The discussions were vibrant and real, unburdened by the societal markers of success that had once loomed so large. However, beneath these advancements lay her unresolved feelings about her father triggered by their last meeting. Driven by a need for closure, Lisa took a pen to paper, revealing her thoughts about both their histories, a fusion of pain, misunderstanding, and yet a thread of hope. She decided to confront the past not only with her father, but with herself. Through writing, she could articulate her fears of falling into the same patterns he had exemplified, and simultaneously acknowledge the parts of her life she could reclaim for herself. As she sealed the letter meant for her father, the surge of emotions heightened. Would he even respond? She questioned whether seeking resolution was courageous or simply foolish, plunging her head first into a complex dilemma. She understood that it was entirely possible that their subsequent interactions might lead her deeper into emotional chaos, tangled in the pursuit of forgiveness. Yet, she also realized that personally confronting these ghosts could reforge a narrative that would fuel the kind of mother she longed to become. The day the letter reached his mailbox, Lisa's heart raced. With her hands trembling, she thought about how it would change her trajectory. It was another step toward becoming the woman she wanted to be, independent, assertive, and equipped with the ability to create her own identity. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, illuminating the vast expanse of her world, she took a deep breath, knowing the moment of truth was approaching. Whatever lay ahead would not only shape her relationship with her father, but also carve out her future as a mother. The next morning, she woke up to the faint sound of a notification on her phone. Her heart skipped as she picked it up, anticipation squirming within her. There it was, a reply. Lisa hesitated, breath caught in her throat, unsure if she'd find the answers she'd sought or if it would plunge her back into the depths of her fears. Lisa's fingers hovered over the screen, caught in the web of anticipation and dread that accompanied every significant event in her life. She steadied her breath, staring at the message. Curiosity gripped her, but the familiar warnings of her inner voice loomed large. What if it pushed her back into the very vulnerability she had fought so hard to overcome? Summoning her sense of empowerment, she opened the message. The words were a blend of terse formality and subtle emotion. Her father, ever the distant figure, acknowledged the letter and expressed an interest in meeting. Her initial thrill was quickly eclipsed by a rush of anxiety. This meeting could unravel all the hard-fought progress she had made in defining her identity outside of her familial ties. What if he remained unchanged? What if she fell back into the patterns that had long haunted her? Days passed, with the hesitant excitement turning to a gnawing anxiety. Amidst her shifts at the hospital, thoughts of the meeting dominated her mind. Each patient interaction felt like practice for the conversation she might have with her father. Lisa visualized the words she would choose, articulating the growth she had achieved since they last spoke. Yet, doubt blossomed like a weed, whispering that no matter how much she prepared, old habits could creep back in during emotional exchanges. She focused on her nursing, channeling the tension into her work. When caring for patients, she recognized that behind every chart was a story that could inspire both healing and connection. One late evening, as she sat beside a terminal patient, she felt the weight of unresolved trauma and others' sorrow deepen her understanding of humanity. It sparked something within her, a commitment to be honest, not just in her private life, but professionally too. That realization crystallized when she conducted her next meeting with fellow nurses. They shared more than strategies for better time management. They delved into the raw realities of their lives, including their personal battles. Lisa took the leap, revealing her anxieties about confronting her father. To her surprise, the room reacted not with pity, but with profound empathy. It reinforced her belief that vulnerability could unify rather than isolate. As her confidence blossomed through those interactions, so did her sense of responsibility toward herself and her daughter. Lisa started envisioning the kind of mother she aspired to be, one who empowered her child by modeling resilience and openness. Every time she shared her story, she fortified her resolve. She would not harbor shame. Instead, she embraced every facet of her journey. However, as the meeting date approached, the shadows of her past crept in relentlessly. The emotional residue from her father's absence loomed large, each moment a reminder of choices made and paths not taken. The clarity she found in working with her patients seemed to falter just when it was most needed. The night before their meeting, she laid wide awake, contemplating potential outcomes. Would it be a repeat of the past, a futile attempt to find closure? Or could it transform her identity into something more hopeful? With every second that ticked closer to dawn, uncertainty morphed into determination. She would confront him, not with the burden of expectation, but equipped with honesty and self-awareness. The sun peeked through the curtains the next morning, casting a golden light that felt almost symbolic. Ready to embrace whatever truth awaited her, she grasped her phone tightly, prepared to carve out her future, not just for herself, but as a foundation for her daughter. Her heart beat in modulation, each pulse echoing her resolve. Whatever the outcome, it would redefine her ties to the past, a necessary step toward forging an unbreakable bond with her own child. As she walked toward the meeting place, a sense of anticipation sparked within her, both terrifying and exhilarating. In that moment, she felt the weight of her decision crystallizing. The boldness of her choice led her to shake off the uncertainty that had plagued her for so long. What lay ahead could either deepen the fractures or finally begin the healing she craved. But one thing was certain. She was no longer the woman defined by her father's choices, but a force of her own making, ready to take control. Just as she arrived, her phone vibrated again, a message that dared to upend her newly forged composure. The meeting was about to begin, but the world felt expansive, filled with untold possibilities as she stood on the edge of her transformation. And then the message displayed. Was it another plea or an unexpected twist? The hour of reckoning was upon her. Lisa's heart raced as she read the message. A surge of adrenaline jolted her into action, her instincts firing in response to the unexpected twist. A familiar name flashed across the screen, one that sent ripples of unease through her. It wasn't just an update about her meeting. It was her mother, reaching out for the first time in months. She hesitated, warring against a flood of old anger resurfacing with a near-palpable force. But this wasn't about them, she reminded herself. She had committed to her growth, her healing, Taking a deep breath, she opened the message. It bore an apology cloaked in vague references to unresolved issues. Lisa's fingers trembled as she typed in response, grappling with the tension between her desire for closure and her fear of reopening old wounds. "Mom, it's been hard for me to engage after everything. I'm preparing to meet with Dad," she sent, waiting for a response that felt inevitable. Each second ticked by, colliding with her rising need to focus on the task ahead. When her phone pinged, the rush of irritation was immediate. A casual request, almost a demand, for her to reach out to her mother before the meeting. The implications lined up like dominoes, threatening to topple into chaos. Her mother wanted to insert herself into the narrative again, to stake a claim on the emotional territory Lisa had diligently begun to reclaim. "Why now?" Lisa muttered under her breath. "Why now, when I'm about to do something important?" In a single moment, the scattered pieces of her resolve felt stripped bare by years of familial entanglement. Was her mother trying to manipulate her emotions, just as she had when Lisa was a child? Lisa chided herself for these automatic responses. She was stronger than this. Remembering the weight she carried from her work, she began to refocus. That evening, with the terminal patient loomed in the front of her mind, a stark reminder of how emotional pressures can manifest and how people connect through shared stories of pain. She could navigate this challenge too. Reaching deep within herself, an unexpected skill began to reveal itself. The ability to compartmentalize feelings, similar to how she managed stressful situations in the hospital. Lisa realized she could engage with her mother's message without losing sight of her own intent. She donned the mental armor she had fortified over the past months, a shield against recursive familial tensions. After a moment of contemplation, she crafted her response with intention. "I appreciate your concern, but I need to do this for myself first." The words felt empowering, a declaration of independence that stamped out her mother's attempts to weave her back into the fabric of dependency. As the time ticked closer to her meeting, Lisa felt a sudden pang of nostalgia, recalling how she had longed for family acknowledgement as a young girl. A flicker of that little girl remained inside her, wishing desperately for validation. Yet, she had forged her self-worth on her own terms over the years, slowly obliterating the cycles of her past. With the renewed clarity, she understood that she could still honor that child within while refusing to succumb to the turmoil of her family dynamics. She was stepping into this meeting as the woman she had become, equipped with wisdom and strength she had uncovered in herself through hard work and resilience. In that moment, she envisioned what she wanted the future to hold. No matter what unfolded during the meeting, it wouldn't dictate her self-worth or her relationship with her daughter. She would find a way to navigate through this. As she entered the cafe where they had agreed to meet, her breath caught in her throat, the warmth of the moment intertwining with a chill from her past. Would her father surprise her with an open heart? Or would he draw her back into the shadows she had fought so hard to escape? One thing was certain. The lessons she learned in the hospital, the connections she forged with her colleagues, and the story she'd begun to write for her daughter had all led her to this crucial juncture. And now, as she settled at the table, her resolve intensified. She glanced at her phone again, another message coming in, a reminder from her mother. The weight of expectation pressed down on her, an echo from her childhood as she realized. The crucial moment was not just about confronting her father, but challenging all the ghosts that had lingered in her mind. With determination rising, she thought, "Today, I reclaim my narrative." Would her words land softly or echo harshly? The answer lingered in the air, just out of reach, as she prepared to face the inevitable confrontation, uncertain yet undeniably ready for the challenge. The cafe buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside Lisa's mind. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, yet it failed to soothe the tight knot in her stomach. She scanned the room, counting the seconds until she would be face to face with her father. Would he be the man she had long imagined, warm, open, and remorseful? Or would he revert to the man whose coldness had crafted the walls she had been climbing for years? Drawing in a deep breath, she deliberately grounded herself in the moment. Each encounter in her line of work demanded the same calm focus she needed now. She had seen patients at their most vulnerable. She had learned to embrace discomfort, both in others and in herself. She closed her eyes briefly, channeling the strength she had mustered from these experiences. Familiar faces flashed across her mind, her mentor guiding her through challenging cases, her colleagues rallying together through crises. They taught her resilience, reminding her of the power of confrontation with truth. Finally, he arrived, his presence imposing, yet vulnerable, the lines on his face etched deeper than she remembered. She could almost catch a trace of regret flickering across his eyes before he quickly masked it. "Lisa," he said evenly, the tension hanging in the air, thickening the casual greeting. "Dad," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The gravity of the moment pressed upon them both as they settled into their seats. Silence draped over the table, laden with unspoken history. It was a silence she was determined to disrupt. "Can we talk about what happened?" she questioned, injecting hesitation with resolve. It wasn't just his past she sought to address, but her own, the years wrapped in silence that echoed louder than words. He shifted, the discomfort palpable in his movements. I didn't mean for it to go that way." The feeble excuse felt like an empty gesture, one she had heard before. The world around them blurred, her focus narrowing solely to him. Beneath the polite surface, she sensed an opportunity to peel back layers, hers and his. "Didn't mean?" she echoed, emotion swelling. "It's a phrase often used as a shield, but what did it truly cost? Not just me, but you?" The question hung ominously. It was a flicker of the confrontation she had long avoided, yet here it loomed. The walls around him tightened, and Lisa could see his unease transforming into defensiveness, shadows creeping into his expression. That was a long time ago. "What's past is past, Lisa." "Exactly," she countered, her heartbeat echoing in her ears, a steady cadence against the rising confrontation. "It's past, but not without consequence. I can't rewrite my history, but I can choose to face it." In that moment, revelation struck. She wasn't just confronting her father, but embracing the fractures that had defined her identity. She was raw yet empowered. The reflection of that little girl within her, once craving validation, began stitching together the wounds formed in silence. Now she felt the growing weight of shared responsibility, of confronting painful truths to foster healing. Could he understand that facing the past didn't mean reliving it, but learning from it? Her determination sharpened, ultimately eclipsing any remnants of fear. Feeling empowered by her voice, she leaned in. "This is my narrative to reclaim. But it's hard to move forward when you insist on clinging to an unwillingness to engage. Will you meet me halfway?" The glimmer of hesitancy flickered in her father's eyes again, rising to the surface of his otherwise stoic demeanor. Lisa could see it now, the possibility of dialogue, of breaking down the barriers that had long frozen their relationship. But still, doubt lingered in the silence. As he struggled for words, Lisa realized she couldn't escape the meeting without delving into her own core, her desire for acknowledgement, battling against the need for independence. The choice was hers. Would she allow these tricky waters to consume her narrative like before, or would she navigate through with purpose? Her heart raced as she awaited his response, pulsating with both fear and potential. Shouldering the burden of their shared past was daunting, but she was determined to face whatever came next. The moment felt electric with possibility. "Lisa," he finally began, his voice quieter. "What do you really want from me?" So many answers flickered within her, but one rose to the forefront. "I want to understand us, to figure out how we got here and how we can create space for healing before it's too late." What she hadn't anticipated was the quaking truth of those words. the reality of her own desire to heal churning alongside an unexpected surge of hope. Would they embark on this journey together, or dissolve back into the echoes of the past? The answer ebbed at the corners of realization as she braced herself for the depths yet to be uncovered, knowing that the real battle was just beginning. As the weight of his questions settled in the air, Lisa felt the familiar grip of uncertainty squeezing her heart. She had studied for years to confront the most challenging moments in her patients' lives, but facing her father skewed the dynamics of everything she had learned. The calmer she sought to appear, the more tumultuous the waves of anxiety crashed within her. "Understanding doesn't come easy, does it?" she countered, her voice betraying a slight tremor. "You've shut me out, and I'm trying to find a way in." The admission felt raw and daring, but in its vulnerability, she found an aspect of herself she never acknowledged, the daughter, not just the professional. He shifted again, the telltale signs of discomfort. "What if I'm not the person you want me to be?" The question lingered, doubt casting shadows over their dialogue. "Then let's start there," Lisa said, emboldened by the notion that vulnerability was its own kind of power. "I'd rather know who you are now than cling to who I thought you could be." Her resolve strengthened, catalyzed by the realization that honesty, no matter how painful, was the bedrock of healing. The cafe's atmosphere faded into the background, their conversation now an island. Cafes were designed for light chatter and fleeting interactions, and yet here they were, reframing the space into a crucible for deep-seated transformation. She could almost envision herself as a therapist in a session, navigating the nuanced layers of her father's wall, seeking not only answers, but a connection. "Do you really want to hear all of it?" he asked, a degree of resignation coloring his tone. It struck her how familiar this felt, as if he had traded the role of father for that of a patient. "Yes," she affirmed, "because in hearing your story, I might better understand mine." The lines separating them began to blur, fostering a tentative hope that perhaps, in acknowledging their shared narratives, they could unearth the seeds of understanding together. He looked away, counting the steam from his coffee with an intensity that suggested he was holding back. "Parental mistakes can't be undone, Lisa. I was trying to protect you. And I was trying to protect myself. We both made choices. Why aren't we talking about those instead?" There was a flicker of acknowledgement from him, just a glimmer against the extensive backdrop of their unspoken past. Lisa leaned in, focusing not on pleading, but on asserting a desire for mutual understanding. The past isn't just a chain that binds us. It can be a pathway, too. Let's find a way to use it. This time, the silence didn't feel burdensome. It felt anticipatory, like a charged moment before the thunderstorm. "I didn't realize how many walls I built until now," he admitted softly, as if breaking free from an invisible prison. "I guess I thought I was being strong, but it turned out to be cowardice." This admission mirrored the struggle she had faced in her own career, the divide between wanting to be seen as strong versus the necessity of vulnerability. It was a lesson that had propelled her through her professional path and now echoed in this intimate exchange with him. "Courage is in facing the discomfort," she offered gently. "I've had to learn that with my patients, and now I see how much we could benefit from embracing that together." The responsibility of carrying their shared emotional burdens began to shift, and she felt it was no longer solely hers. As his gaze lifted and met hers, something changed. The inscrutable veil that had shrouded him was pulling back, allowing a glimpse of the man he could be. Lisa sensed the power of reclamation at their fingertips, a chance to reclaim a fragmented relationship, to confront the brokenness, and even to heal. An unfamiliar excitement coursed through her veins. This wasn't merely a conversation, it was the potential for transformation. The past, rife with hurt, now found a place in the present where healing could flourish. "What if we start there, Dad?" she asked, tracing the contours of her own courage. "What if we begin with forgiveness, for ourselves and each other?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Would he be willing to explore the delicate terrain of healing? Or would he choose to retreat to the safe shores of silence, leaving her to navigate these new waters alone? The tension in the atmosphere was palpable, and Lisa leaned in, ready to brave the depths of their conversation, seeking not just answers about her past, but also the key to her future. What would happen if he took that leap with her? Would they emerge from the murky waters transformed, or would they find themselves drowning in the same old patterns? All she could do was wait and hope for a breakthrough. The next moment could change everything. As the silence weighed heavily between them, Lisa's heart raced. The vulnerability she had exposed felt both liberating and perilous, a tightrope walk over an abyss of unresolved emotions. Would her father's fear of connection lead him to retreat, or could they forge a new path together? Breaking the stillness, he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Forgiveness. It's a tall order, Lisa," he finally murmured, his voice a hesitant whisper laced with doubt. "What if it exposes more hurt than it heals?" "Maybe it's exactly what we need," she urged, her gaze unwavering. The question lingered. Could he truly comprehend the strength that lay in vulnerability? They both needed to recognize that this journey of forgiveness wasn't about absolution, but about acknowledgement and understanding. With a deep breath, her father leaned forward, the weight of years of silence palpable in the air. "I have regrets, more than I care to admit, but I never wanted you to carry my burdens." The truth of his admission struck Lisa, leaving a fissure in the emotional armor she had fortified around her own life. It ignited something deep within her, a sense of resolve not just as a daughter, but as a professional trained to navigate the complexity of human emotions. "But I have carried them, Dad. Your silence has shaped my world just as much as my own choices. It's time we unpack this together." His brow furrowed, reminders of long-held anger and disappointment flashing across his face. "You make it sound so easy, but it's not." "It's not easy," she acknowledged, her voice steady. "But every moment we stay stuck in this cycle of hurt, we miss the chance to elevate our relationship. I want to reclaim not only my past, but also my relationship with you." At that moment, smaller revelations shifted within her. As much as Lisa sought to understand her father, she realized she was also searching for clarity within herself. What role had she played in the dynamics that had shaped their relationship? "Sometimes I feel like I've been too focused on my practice, treating others instead of addressing my own pain," she confessed, a hint of guilt threading through her words. "It's become a way to deflect from my own struggles. I need to not just focus on my patients, but also confront what I've buried deep." His expression softened, a glimpse of vulnerability melding with the weight of familial expectation. "I didn't realize how much your profession mirrors our dynamic. You fix others, but can't fix what's broken here." Realization washed over her like a sudden downpour. "And it makes sense to you, doesn't it? The therapist who is so focused on others' healing has failed to embark on her own path." Her father nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding igniting in his gaze. "You're drawing parallels, and it's both insightful and painful." Just as the storm of revelation threatened to sweep them both away, a waitress approached, delivering their check with innocent timing. The momentary interruption tugged at the fragile thread of connection they had started to weave. "Let's not lose this," Lisa urged, placing the check aside and fixing her eyes on him once more. "Can we push past the discomfort together?" Her father opened his mouth as if to respond, but hesitated, warring with the weight of the past against the promise of potential healing. Lisa could see the battle within him, the decades of built-up resentment, regret, and the potential for a future devoid of their legacy of silence. "Lisa," he began, his voice steadying, "forgiveness requires confronting uncomfortable realities. Are you certain you're ready for that?" His question hung resolutely in the air, filled with the tension of deep-seated conflict intermingled with hope. Everything hinged on her willingness to step further into the unknown. Could she embrace the pain of confrontation for the sake of connection? In this moment, she replied with fierce determination. I choose to confront. I choose to heal, not only for us, but for myself as well. The air between them vibrated with potential, both daunting and thrilling. The walls she had feared might crumble now felt like a sturdy framework on which they could rebuild. Yet the question remained. Were they truly ready to face everything that lay ahead? With her heart pounding, Lisa understood they were on the precipice of a journey neither could avoid. What would happen when they leaned into that discomfort? Would they find the courage to dismantle years of hurt, or would the shadows of their past entrap them once more? The stakes were rising, and she could feel it in her bones. Everything was about to shift. As Lisa sat across from her father, the weight of his unspoken words crashed into her with a force she hadn't anticipated. The restaurant buzzed around them, but her world had narrowed to this pivotal moment, a crucible of sorts. She could feel a tremor of anticipation running through her veins, the possibility of transformation hanging in the air like a thick fog. Forgiveness is often misunderstood, her father continued, a soft seriousness invading his words. It's not merely saying, I'm sorry. It's seeking understanding behind the pain. His admission struck a chord deep within her. But isn't understanding what lies beneath the pain the first step? Without clarity, can we ever hope to rebuild? The question resonated with the professional inside her, trained to peel back layers of defenses. Understanding requires transparency, he replied, each word measured as if they both stood at the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss of shared trauma. And I haven't been transparent about my fears that have shaped the man I've become, and, in turn, have impacted you. His honesty was unexpected, the kind of revelation that disarmed her, prompting her to look beyond her anger. Yet doubt gnawed at the edges of her resolve. Could she truly expose the raw nerves of her own vulnerabilities? Let's break that silence then, she urged, her resolve hardening. What fears have you hidden from me? I want to understand all of it, even the uncomfortable truths. His shoulders slumped slightly, a visual surrender to the moment. I was afraid of failing you, of not being the father you needed. I sheltered you from my struggles, thinking it would protect you. His confession left a heavy silence in its wake, her emotions swirling like leaves caught in a gusty wind. She had expected anger, even rejection, but this was an invitation to a deeper conversation, an offer to excavate years of buried resentment and disappointment. I've carried my own baggage, you know. I've built barriers against connection because I feared being hurt, by you and by everyone else. The admission slipped out before she could restrain it. I didn't want to repeat the cycle of pain. The corners of his mouth turned down in a frown, recognition dawning in his gaze. And in doing so, we both lost so much. I recognize that I may have pushed you away in my attempts to shield you. But denying my own fears only made it worse. Lisa felt a flicker of something. Was it solidarity or understanding? It was as if they were standing in a plot of earth that both had watered, yet unbeknownst to the other, and now the blooms of honesty were starting to peek through the hardened soil. Then let's excavate these fears and understand them together, she proposed, her voice steadied with newfound conviction. We can begin by acknowledging every moment we chose silence over connection. Her father's gaze locked onto hers, the weary depths of his eyes revealing layers of unarticulated pain. What do we do when that pain feels insurmountable? We take it one step at a time, she offered, fueled by the determination of a woman who, while grappling with her past, refused to let it dictate her future. Just as the walls began to seem less insurmountable, a cell phone buzz broke their moment of connection. Lisa reached for her phone instinctively, only to see a message flash across the screen from her practice, a client in crisis. It was a reminder of the tension between her professional obligations and personal healing, a poignant tug-of-war for her attention. This interruption felt ominous, a signal that their delicate progress could easily be unraveled. With a heavy heart, she turned her gaze back to her father, her expression softening. "Can we pause again, just for a moment? I need to address this." "Of course," he replied, though his voice held a hint of disappointment. As she handled the situation, her mind raced. Was she ready to compartmentalize her professional identities while maintaining the momentum of this crucial conversation? It posed a moral dilemma, one she had often faced but never quite resolved. The stakes felt exponentially higher now, given the vulnerability they had just shared. With every heartbeat, she felt the possibility of real change flicker in the air, but the specter of her responsibilities loomed like a shadow. "Let's continue soon," Lisa proposed, driven by a burgeoning desire to keep this fragile connection alive. Her father nodded, yet uncertainty diminished the strength of their moment. As she slid her phone back into her bag, she recognized that she would have to confront not only the conversation with her father, but also her role as a caregiver to others, one that demanded her presence and emotional investment. What would this mean for her journey towards self-understanding? Could she balance her responsibilities as a therapist while confronting her past? The potential for missteps felt overwhelming. Yet, pervading through her was a potent sense of determination. She would explore these intertwined threads of her life. As they prepared to leave the table, Lisa felt a surge of resolve. In every challenge, there lay an opportunity for connection. But what awaited her when she returned to her patients, standing at the precipice of their own struggles? In the midst of uncertainty and potential breakthrough, only one thing was clear. The true test of her commitment to heal lay ahead. Lisa stepped out of the restaurant, the soft hum of the world around her contrasting sharply with the turmoil swirling inside her. The air felt heavy, the realization of the fragmented relationship with her father sitting uneasily on her shoulders. Here she was, a professional tasked with healing the wounds of others, yet still grappling with her own. It was a paradox that made every step toward understanding more fraught than it should be. As she made her way to her car, the urgent buzz of her phone reminded her of the reality waiting beyond the fragile connection she had begun creating with her father. She felt a pang of disappointment. She had just started to unfurl the layers of vulnerability between them, and now her professional obligations threatened to push her back into the familiar realm of avoidance. Would she perpetuate the same cycle of disengagement by focusing solely on her client's needs? The thought nagged at her. She opened the car door but paused, her fingers freezing on the sun-warmed metal. This moment required reflection. Her clients depended on her. She had to guide them through their darkest hours. But could she do so effectively while still haunted by her emotional baggage? Did it compromise her ability to support them if she too was battling unseen demons? Resting her forehead against the steering wheel, she took a deep breath, grounding herself. Clarity came in quick, sharp flashes. She realized she often prioritized her professional persona over her authentic self. It was much easier to project strength and competence than to acknowledge her struggles. But in doing so, was she not denying a vital part of the healing process? Perhaps her own journey could serve as a beacon for her clients. Could vulnerability enhance her practice? With this revelation, she started the engine, her heart thudding with both anxiety and excitement. What would it mean to embrace her imperfections? That was a journey not just for herself, but also one that could ripple through her practice, challenging the barriers she had erected between her personal and professional life. Arriving at her office, the familiar setting welcomed her. The gentle hum of the air conditioning and the plush, inviting furniture created a space imbued with safety. Yet, today, everything felt different. With each client that walked through the door, she felt a growing urge to share, not details of her life, but the essence of her journey through uncertainty. First, she needed to wrestle with the fear of being perceived as inadequate. Her first session was with Jenna, a young woman who had long struggled with personal trauma. As Lisa listened to Jenna's story, she felt a deep well of empathy emerge. The parallels between Jenna's journey and her own past surfaced with alarming clarity. In that moment, Lisa recognized the masks they both wore, the veneer of resilience that often obscured profound vulnerability underneath. "Jenna," Lisa began, her voice steady yet softer than usual, "there's something important I want to share. Just because I'm here to guide you doesn't mean I have everything figured out. I have my own struggles too." Jenna's eyes widened slightly, surprise lining her face, but then a flicker of connection appeared. "You mean therapists deal with things too? I thought you were above it all." "It's easy to think that way," Lisa replied, her tone candid. "But the truth is that grappling with our own experiences can empower us to help others. It can foster a bond that facilitates healing." As the session progressed, Lisa felt more liberated with each word, her authentic self emerging from behind the walls of professionalism. Something profound happened. Jenna's defenses seemed to lower, revealing the deeper layers of her own emotions. Their shared humanity created a richer dialogue, transforming their session into an exploration of both their journeys. When the session ended, Jenna left the room with a hesitant smile, conflicted but seeing a glimmer of hope. Lisa sat back in her chair, a mixture of exhilaration and fear coursing through her. Had she not only validated Jenna's struggles, but also redefined her role as a therapist? The realization that vulnerability could be a strength lit a fire within her. Yet an underlying fear loomed large. Would this newfound approach alienate those who preferred the old, more distant Lisa? As she wrestled with the implications of her identity, it became clear to her that stepping into the unknown path of authentic connection could be as daunting as it was liberating. With each client, she resolved to take small steps toward revealing more of her authentic self. But would the risks be worth it? As she prepared for her next appointment, the uncertainty gnawed at her, leaving her breathless with both excitement and trepidation. What further revelations and potential backlash would come from this shift in her practice? She couldn't shake the feeling that her journey had only begun. Each session would bring a new chance to confront her fears directly, not only for her own growth, but for the lives she touched. As she got ready for the next client, one question lingered in the air. Could embracing her vulnerability truly reshape her approach to therapy, or would it shatter everything she had built? The journey Lisa had embarked upon, one of healing, connection, and reclamation, culminated in a moment of profound transformation. Days had morphed into weeks, each filled with a balance of emotional vulnerability and professional diligence. Lisa now understood that her past wasn't merely a shadow, it was a gateway to profound personal growth. The dual aspects of her life as a nurse and a mother began to merge into a cohesive narrative of strength. The meeting with her father had been a turning point. Through candid conversations, they had begun to navigate the waters of reconciliation. Though there were still unresolved feelings, Lisa felt a sense of solid confidence emerging. They had both articulated their fears, his fear of failure, her fear of repeating history, creating a bridge of understanding that had been absent for far too long. The silence that once characterized their relationship was slowly being replaced with dialogues rich with authenticity and vulnerability. Buoyed by the breakthroughs she experienced during those exchanges, Lisa's professional identity began to shift dramatically. She felt a newfound determination to infuse her work with the principles of vulnerability, positivity, and open communication that she had learned from confronting her past. Each interaction with her patients now brimmed with authenticity. No longer did she merely treat symptoms. She engaged on a deeper level, sharing her uncertainties while empowering those she worked with to confront theirs. In her sessions, the impact was tangible. Patients who saw vulnerability resonated with her messages, slowly unearthing their own buried emotions. Week by week, her practice blossomed. The room that had once echoed with pain and disconnection now vibrated with hope. They were no longer clients and therapists. They were individuals on parallel journeys toward healing. Lisa received recognition at work, a long-awaited acknowledgement by her peers. Her innovative approach was highlighted in staff meetings, commending her effectiveness in fostering authentic connections with patients who historically had avoided discussing their deeper traumas. The realization that her efforts mattered fueled her spirit with undeniable satisfaction and pride. She was no longer the hesitant nurse second-guessing her worth. She was a recognized force in her field, a professional who had conquered her private battles and emerged stronger. As Lisa fostered these connections, she simultaneously nurtured her relationship with her daughter. Each evening became a special ritual, filled with honesty and empathy, where Lisa would share snippets of her day, drawing parallels that helped her daughter understand resilience. Moments that had been marred by doubt transformed into valuable lessons of perseverance and courage. Her daughter began to mirror her strength, embodying the confidence Lisa had worked hard to instill. The empowerment Lisa now felt rippled through all aspects of her life, manifesting in small yet meaningful achievements. She organized a community wellness workshop where she guided parents on the importance of vulnerability and authentic communication, something she had yearned for since her own challenges. The event was a success, filled with laughter, shared stories, and connections that sparked through the room. The attendees left not only with practical skills, but with a renewed sense of community that Lisa had once sought. Standing there amidst the faces of those grateful for her guidance, Lisa realized she had reached a pivotal moment of personal achievement. She had transcended the shame and fear that had tried to define her. Instead, she emerged as an advocate for authentic relationships, both in her career and as a mother. As she looked around, she understood that the cycle of her past was no longer dictating her narrative. She had successfully rewritten the story. In this journey, she had not only grown, but had also found a new voice, a powerful one that resonated with the courage she had summoned to face her fears. She had built a solid, recognized position in her professional realm, while simultaneously creating a nurturing environment for her daughter. This was not just the end of a chapter, it was a new beginning. Lisa was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, confident that she could overcome whatever obstacles might arise. Each step of her journey reaffirmed her belief in the transformative power of vulnerability and connection. And as she prepared to share her journey with others, through workshops, mentorship, and even a forthcoming book, she knew that true fulfillment resided in not just overcoming her past, but sharing the lessons learned along the way. Now, more than ever, she understood. It was sharing her story that inspired others to begin their own. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that showcase true transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these impactful narratives alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful resolution. This is the moment to show your support for stories that matter and change lives forever. Don't wait even one more second to share.